is the Sony LX310BT, an easy-to-use entry-level turntable with audiophile sound? Stay tuned to find out. Well, hello and welcome back to my channel. Chris the Frugal Audiophile with you here today, and we've got another review coming your way. Today we're going to talk about the Sony LX310BT turntable. I've been using this turntable for just over a month now, and I would like to share with you some of my thoughts on it. But before we do that, be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that little bell so that you get notifications when I upload further videos. Okay, let's talk about features and specs. Okay, so you see there on your screen that this turntable is basically 17 inches wide by 4.5 inches high by about 14.5 inches deep, give or take a few fractions of an inch on that. So it's a fairly standard size. It's going to fit in a 17-inch wide AV cabinet. And it weighs 7 pounds, so nothing too heavy, but it's not like it's feather light. Now this turntable does have a largely plastic housing, so that's something for you to keep in mind. More about that as we go on to video. And one standout feature for the LX310 is that it is a fully automatic turntable. I will put on the screen here a demonstration of that, but basically you press a button and the tone arm moves and puts itself into place, and the record begins to play at the beginning. You can press another button, which is basically a lift button for the tone arm, but that is your pause button. And then finally there's a button for stop, which lifts the tone arm and puts it back into its nesting position. Fully automatic, great features to have. Now, this is a belt driven platter. It is dual speed, so you have 33 1/3 and 45 RPM. The wow and flutter is 0.1%, which is a good rating. And I can attest that the wow and flutter is minimal on this turntable as far as my ears can tell. They say that you really can't hear anything under 0.4%, and so this is well under that mark. And this turntable has a moving magnet cartridge. It is non-replaceable. Wah, wah. It has an aluminum platter. It has a neoprene platter mat, which I have never really seen before. You know, you see felt, rubber, and cork, but this one was more of a neoprene feel to it. It's okay, I think it works, but it is really a fairly cheap mat. One nice feature is that the preamp does have decibel selection. It has a low, medium, and high for the output volume. So that way, if maybe your preamp is a little bit low, a little bit high, or you have a setup where one component is a lot louder or a lot quieter, you can kind of adjust that and dial it into your system's needs. As far as connections, we are looking at stereo RCA, fairly standard, no grounding connection by the way. Bluetooth 4.0, which is a little bit low, but it's just fine when you're talking about a turntable if you want to use that feature. USB 2.0, that's basically to connect it to a computer. And then of course you have your 12-volt DC adapter. Finally, you see there you have a cost of $248 if it's not on sale, which this does not go on sale very often, but occasionally it will. And this brings us to the assignment. And that is to be an easy-to-use entry-level turntable with decent sound at an affordable price. So a pretty big assignment there. We'll see how it does. Well, let's start out with talking about what it gets right. First of all, I do like the design of this turntable. I think it is attractive. It kind of reminds me of turntables of old with the black coloring and then the smoked plastic dust cover that it has on it as well. So I do like the looks of this turntable. That is going to be very subjective, but for me, it's very understated and attractive in its appearance. And even though this is largely a plastic turntable, it is made of high quality plastics. If you've ever gotten your hands on the Audio-Technica LP60 turntable, that is a very flimsy, lightweight turntable that feels cheap. Now, it is, of course, cheaper than this turntable, but still, it feels like a toy, even in comparison to the LX310, which is basically a plastic turntable. So even though it is plastic, it is high quality plastic. Also, this turntable, it does sound good. I wasn't expecting a lot out of it. You know, when you look at the design and you look at the cartridge on it, it looks very inexpensive. And so I wasn't expecting a lot, but I was actually decently surprised by the sound of this turntable. So when I was using the built-in preamp, I enjoyed the sound of the turntable. I recently picked up Nevermind, my Nirvana, and I was able to listen to that album on the LX310 and enjoy my time with it. And I was actually quite impressed. However, when I plugged the LX310 into a separate funnel preamp, because you can defeat the built-in preamp, and you can plug it into any preamp of your choice. Now, it does not have a grounding connection on it, so you might get some feedback in your system, but I did not have any issues when I connected it to my Fluence PA10 funnel preamp. And when I did that, I did notice that the clarity was a little bit better and the soundstage opened up. The audio, it just sounded larger when I did that. Now, it wasn't like night and day, it wasn't a huge difference, but there was a noticeable difference in all of those areas, and I enjoyed the sound even more. I was listening to Get Rhythm by Johnny Cash, a very old album that I recently purchased, but it sounded large. It had a nice big sound stage. Now, was it as good as my RT81? Well, no, not quite, but it was very close. I don't know if in a blind A/B test I could tell the difference. Maybe I could. That's hard to say, but I don't really know that I could tell the difference, to be honest with you, especially when using the PA10 preamp on both record players, because that's what's really going to be creating the sound. Now, my RT81 does have a better cartridge as well as an upgraded stylus, but overall, I was pleasantly surprised with the sound of the LX310. After I spent some time with the LX310 in my system, I connected it to the Sony DH190 using the SSCS5 bookshelf speakers, because that seemed like a natural pairing. They're all Sony products. They're all kind of in that entry-level price point. And so I wanted to see, would this be a good starter system for someone who is looking to get into the hobby of either vinyl or just audio in general, but doesn't want to spend a lot of money. And so I set that all up. Unfortunately, I didn't get any pics. I was just enjoying my time with it, and I forgot to take pictures. So you're just gonna have to trust me on that one, that I did test it, and I liked that whole entire setup put together. For its price, it really sounded quite good using the LX310 with the other Sony gear. Now, I found that I preferred the sound of the LX310's built-in preamp to that of the preamp on the DH190. I just thought it sounded a little bit warmer, whereas the DH190's preamp sounded a little bit thinner in comparison. Would you prefer it the other way? That's for you to decide, but personally, I thought the preamp in the turntable sounded better than that on the DH190. But you think about it, you know, you have a whole entire stereo receiver for about $150 with a whole bunch of other components in it. So they probably spent less on the preamp than they did with the LX310. I don't know. That's just my opinion on that. And I think that was a good pairing and a great entry-level system. Oh, and finally, when talking about sound quality, I didn't test the Bluetooth. I don't really get the point of Bluetooth with a turntable. I guess if you wanted to have a fairly wireless system, it wouldn't be a bad way to go. But I just don't really think that that's something that is necessary when it comes to turntables. You've got to get up and change your records all the time anyway. You can only play, you know, one side at a time. So I don't know if there is any added convenience when using Bluetooth. The only thing is you could connect it to a speaker, you know, and carry around the house with you, but you have about 20 minutes of music, and then you're going to have to go and flip your record. So it had its trade-offs, but I didn't test it. I assume that it works. I've seen other people testing it, and it does work. If that's something that you want to use, that option is there for you to use, but I did not test it out. Next, I loved the automatic controls on this turntable. One of the challenges I have with vinyl is dropping the needle and getting all that set up correctly because of my visual impairment. I can do it, and I'm getting better at it when I'm using my RT81, but it still is challenging for myself. So I love that I could just press a button and it would move the tone arm into the correct place, drop the needle. Without any scuffs or scratches, the record would stop playing. Also, with the press of one button, I could pause it, and then I could also stop it no matter where it was as well. So I loved the automatic controls. I think that is a great feature of this turntable, and it makes it really easy for a beginner to use. Also, I thought that the auto stop feature on this turntable worked better than that on my RT81. The RT81 does work, but it continues to play for a few seconds after the audio is done before it automatically stops and goes back to the resting position. And so that's something that I appreciated about the Sony. Almost immediately after the audio was finished, as you could see in the clip there that I played earlier, it would stop and go back to the resting position. So that is definitely a win for the Sony. You know, and as I was thinking about all this automation on this turntable, I thought, you know, this would be a perfect setup for a remote. You could have a remote that could control this turntable. You could play, pause, and stop your audio from your seated position. I think Sony really missed an opportunity there. Hey Sony, if you were watching, if you would like to set yourself apart in the turntable market, add a remote to this turntable, and I think that you would really have a competitive product that a lot of people would be interested in. Now, of course, you're still gonna have to go and flip the record when the side ends, but still, you could pause it while listening and, you know, get your record all ready, sit down in your chair, get you a drink, maybe a little snack, and then press play, and you're off to the races listening to your music. So just something that I was thinking about. Is not necessarily a pro or a con. Something else I did appreciate about this turntable is that one could add an external preamp if they so desired. You can defeat the built-in preamp. As I said, it doesn't have the grounding connection, but you can still do that. I think that's a nice feature and something that all turntables should have. That way you could upgrade the sound of the turntable with your own preamp. Okay, now let's spend some time talking about what it gets wrong. First of all, it is largely a plastic affair. Besides the platter and the tone arm and of course the RCA and other connections on the back, this is a plastic product. And many are going to be turned off by that. Granted, it is not my favorite material to be used in such products. I like my products to have, you know, metal and wood in them, or at least some sort of MDF like my RT81 does, but that is not what you are getting with this Sony turntable. Now, as I said, it's not the worst plastic ever, but I know many are just going to be disappointed in the fact that it is largely a plastic affair. Next, there's no way to change out the cartridge. You are stuck with the one that you get. Sony does say in their manual that you can purchase a replacement needle, but you are not changing out that cartridge. I don't even believe it's removable. However, there is no counterweighting adjustment, and so you could not get a different cartridge, say like one from Audio-Technica or Audiophile, and add it into this turntable, because there would be no way to set the tracking force. It is fixed at 3 grams. I guess if you could get a cartridge that was at 3 grams, again, I don't think it is removable. I actually didn't try, and in case you're wondering, I did already send the turntable back, and that's why we have this CCR album here, Cosmos Factory, just kind of to represent vinyl in general, because I've already sent back the turntable. So yeah, there is no way to replace the cartridge on this turntable. That is going to turn off many of you. I get it. I understand. It's not my favorite thing either. Another big turnoff for this turntable is non-removable RCA cables. Yep, that's right. You cannot take out, well, you could, but you have to take the turntable apart. You'd have to go inside and remove them, clip the wires probably, and do all of that. It just wouldn't be worth it. I do not understand what Sony was thinking there, other than, it's cheap and easy to do, but come on, Sony. How difficult would it be to put some RCA terminals on the back of this unit and just put a different cable in the... To me, that really signifies a cheap product, and I do not like seeing that, and I took off a lot of points for that one. Also, I'm not really sure how I feel about the neoprene platter mat. It's not a common material. It seemed a little bit slippery, as you probably saw in my unboxing video there, that it's not gonna maybe hold your record quite as firmly as rubber or a cork would, but I didn't notice my record slipping at all. But it could be an issue, and it's really a cheap material for them to use. So I don't take off a lot of points for that one, but it is something worth noting. Finally, there are better sounding, better built turntables on the market in this same price range. So my Fluence RT81 costs $250, just about the same retail price as the Sony. It's got better quality materials, a better cartridge, it has better sound and better upgradability than the Sony turntable does. And so at the same price, you can get all of those upgraded features. Now what it does lack is the automatic playback, but for many, they don't care about that, and they're more interested in the build and sound quality and the upgradability. So I understand that. And so this does bring me to the Frugality Grade. So for the Sony LX310BT, I am going to give it a B-. I wanted to give it a little bit higher grade just because of some of the nice features that it has. But as I just mentioned, there are too many drawbacks for me to do so. And really, a B- is not a bad grade, and I don't think it is a turntable to be avoided. And now, what are my recommendations? First of all, I think this is a great turntable for a beginner who wants to get into vinyl. It is easy to set up and it is easy to operate, yet it still sounds quite good. It is going to outperform an inexpensive suitcase turntable or something with built-in speakers. It's going to outperform all of those units. Now, of course, you're going to have to add your own speakers, but that's easy enough to do, and I highly recommend that you consider this turntable over one of those other ones that I just mentioned and get your own speakers. Also, if you want an automatic turntable that sounds pretty good, this is worth considering. However, considering the plethora of other turntable options, you have U-Turn, you have some nicer Audio-Technicas, of course you have Fluence, as I mentioned. In this price range, I think that $248 is a bit steep for what you're getting with the Sony. So if you are interested in this turntable, I'd recommend that you would wait for it to go on sale or pick up a used model as I did. I got my LX310 like new from Amazon for $150, and I thought that was a really good deal, and I couldn't even tell that it was used. It seemed like it was brand new to me, really. So I think that's a good route to take if you are interested in this turntable at all. But I did already sell it, if that tells you anything. However, I probably would keep it around if I had the space for it. Also, if you want better sound quality, I would look elsewhere. I highly suggest, as I said before, you check out the Fluence RT line of turntables. Finally, do I recommend that you purchase this turntable if you have the Sony DH190 and maybe the Sony CS-SS5 speakers? I think that they would make an excellent pairing, especially if you're someone who really like to brand match your gear and you want an automatic turntable. I think it is a great option. If you're looking for better sound quality, then I would suggest you look elsewhere. Still, I think that would make a nice system to pair all those products together. There you have it. That's my review. So when considering everything that I've just said, are you still at all interested in the Sony LX310BT? Is the lack of upgradable cartridge a big turnoff to you, or do you simply not care and appreciate the fully automatic functionality? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave them down in the comments below. If you enjoy my videos, please consider checking out Patreon and buy me a cup of coffee. I really would appreciate the support. Well, thank you so much for watching, and remember, frugal doesn't necessarily mean cheap. Cut that, cut it out.